I can tell that I've hit permafrost when I'm troweling down and it just gets really hard and I can dig no further. I kind of get this scraping. I have to stop and let it melt so that I can really find out if it's something cultural or just something natural down there.
In 2007, two Park Service archaeologists, Andy Tremaine and Cody Straith, found an archaeological site at Matharak Lake. The site's located in the Brooks Range, Gates of the Arctic National Park, near the headwaters of the Noatak River, so it's a tundra zone, no trees, it's a wide open river valley. And Cody and Andy found the site eroding at the edge of the lake.
We did it kind of a cool way in that we got flown into the uppermost lake that you can land in the Noatak, and then we backpacked for a week upriver, and we carried with us these little miniature boats. They're called alpacas, and then we rafted back down to the lake that we'd put in. And then we had the plane come again with more food and another boat, and we floated from there down to here, which is like 40 miles or something. People do it for vacation. We get paid to do it.
The Matharak Lake site is one of about 1,700 sites that we've documented in the park. We estimate there's tens of thousands, but it's a big place, and we've only been doing archaeology there for a few decades. We'll probably never find all those sites.
And when I started investigating closer into this grass, there's a little bit of a cut face. We got down there and you could see the bones actually still in place, basically just sticking out a profile of this wall.
Initially I was unimpressed. Every year we come back from the end of the summer with all kinds of good leads, and most of them don't pan out. Most of the time our high hopes are just that.
And then I found a little stone tool that was reminiscent to me of Arctic small tool tradition, though at the time I was not completely certain that that's what it was. Knowing that there's very few sites that have bones associated with stone tools of that tradition, we figured we should come back before it eroded down the slope and into the lake.
Well, Andy was persistent, and he's a good enough archaeologist that I trust his instincts on this. And the fact that the site was eroding, the site was seeing some impacts, it gave some urgency to following up on this.
We could tell that some of the bones had been cut too, and that just made it more exciting. It's like, wow, why are these bones snapped in half, and why are these bones cut? Some of them were burned, so we knew that it was the result of people leaving them behind.
And then when we got results back from radiocarbon dating and confirmed that the site was about 4,000 years old, then it was exciting. We knew it was a major find then.
That's a small tibia.
Yeah.
What is that? That's not
It's too big for a wolf.
It's not too big for a wolf.
You don't think?
I have that other caribou tibia down at the tent now.
Oh yeah, we can
that I'll bring up.
All the previous bones found in Alaska and Denby sites would fit in the palms of two outstretched hands, or would fit in a soup can. Not a lot.
What we've interpreted this to be is part of what we call a midden, and a midden is essentially a prehistoric trash dump. So all the animal bones and cracked rock and stone tools that may have broke that they didn't want anymore were discarded to an area of the site where they probably were not actually sleeping or living so much. So some of the animals that we've discovered so far at this site are definitely lots of caribou. We found Dall sheep and wolf bones. We have also found small mammals that include ground squirrel and possibly marmot or porcupine. We've got a number of fish bones. Fish bone does not typically preserve very well, but we know we have grayling and some burbot. And I'm trying to also determine if we got lake trout.
What about that bird bone?
Oh yeah, and as a matter of fact, we do have some bird that has showed up here. Here's a little bird bone we have just uncovered from this section of the midden. And although they're not real numerous, I know we have some ptarmigan bones, and I would really like to find some other seasonal migratory birds, but so far that nothing conclusive has turned up. Love them birds! Kentucky Fried Ptarmigan here.
We think that one of the things contributing to the great preservation at the site is that it was probably buried rapidly, and the permafrost rose up to freeze those bones and organic tools. So they've been frozen for 4,000 years or close to it, and unthawing now as the lake erodes into the deposit or we excavate down into it. So for the first time in 4,000 years, these artifacts are unfrozen.
Ta-da! And the other end been snapped off a bit. One thing that I've really noticed happens with this site is the permafrost, as it melted and thawed over the years, has caused artifacts or bones to settle. And then it freezes and the ice will move something up. You'll actually find bones or stone tools rather than laying horizontal, they'll be turned completely vertical. So you'll find it buried in such a fashion that you can tell that the ice has been moving these artifacts around, up and down.
Archaeology is the way we know anything about the Denby people. It's our only source of information about past cultures.
I did just find something sweet!
Dang.
Check this out.
Wow.
Yeah, chocolate biface. This is pretty sweet.
Oh my gosh.
Right here. I thought that was bone. Got a complete in blade.
Wow.
Classic Denby in blade.
What's the material?
This is
It's huge.
chert, and it looks like it's the brown chert. I like to call it chocolate chert.
Nice find.
Yeah, this is a beautiful find.
Denby people or their relatives lived across the whole circumpolar north, from Alaska to Greenland. So this is one of the interesting facets of this story, is that they appear very rapidly, almost in an archaeological instant, is precisely as we can measure time with radiocarbon dating and those kind of techniques. We see Arctic small tool tradition people across the whole Arctic.
Think about the last human hands that touched this tool before Andes.
Or maybe they did just drop it and they were like, dang it, where was that point at? I was gonna put that in my...
the most characteristic thing is the techniques they were using to flake the stone. They're very finely worked. They were masterful craftspeople who made very delicate, well-made, regular tools.
So the way they produce these things is they'll have a larger core and they'll knock a large flake off of it, and then they'll take that large flake and shape it into these points. And what's characteristic of the Denby Flint complex is that they have these little tiny intricate flake patterns.
Maybe 15 minutes per tool. They were probably pretty expert flakers.
It looks like it's probably gray chert,
They're tiny.
and they're pretty small. So this is gray chert flake that I just excavated from my unit, and it looks like it was used as a reduction off of a larger piece of raw material.
From that we can tell, all right, this is part of the Arctic small tool tradition, which, as mentioned before, spans from Alaska across Canada to Greenland. That's like the most formal inscraper yet,
Oh, good.
actually.
But it looks like it's come off of
Off the flake,
Flake.
yeah, but that's how they make them. That is
Can you?
a classic inscraper.
One of the things that interests me about this site is the culture that that Andy thinks it belongs to. The Denby complex people may have come here by the way of Bering Strait from Russia, and since I'm Russian myself, I can relate to this kind of a journey.
Louis Giddings, an archaeologist working back in the 40s and 50s, who defined the Denby Flint complex to describe the kinds of artifacts that are found in sites in parts of Alaska that date to about 4,200 years ago to about 3,000 years ago. And what we've generally found in Denby sites are stone tools. They're well preserved. They're the things that are left in sites after everything else is rotted away.
I'm actually more excited about the bones than the stone tools here, because so few sites that are related to this group have organic material that has been preserved. We've uncovered organic tools, some of which exhibit artwork which was never known before for the Denby group. It gives us a greater understanding of their technology in general.
There's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of bones at Matharak Lake. They're well preserved. You can identify what animals they're from, the age of the animal, the sex of the animal in many cases. So you can really flesh out a lot of detail about the season the site was occupied, the kinds of animals people were eating, how they were processing the animals. So all kinds of detail about Denby life that just unattainable at most Denby sites.
I think much more advanced than what you would guess for people that moved into the Arctic 4,000 years ago. But then again, to live in this harsh of a climate, yeah, we got some crud. You have to have some fairly unique, well-designed technology to create the clothing, the housing, and the implements for hunting the animals up here. I think it's really neat, fun to excavate.
I have writing implements, a Sharpie, with which I can write on bags where I put my artifacts. Some marble that I picked up on the beach, and a hand lens if I need a closer look on
at an artifact.
Oh. Cool.
All right. I have a lot of plastic bags. I have, looks like vitamin C, emergency. Because we can get sick out here with all the cold and wind and moisture. And cough drops. My flake bag from the screen that I just screen my dirt. Leatherman, Sharpie, and another Sharpie.
Sharpies are popular.
Yeah, backup Sharpie. That's all I have.
Andy.
Oh, I have an artifact in there. Bags. I got like a wolf mandible, caribou metatarsal I found on the beach. More bags. Shotgun shell.
What's that for?
Lighter.
The bears.
For putting in the gun to shoot the bear. After I've shot the 4 rounds that didn't kill the bear, I'll throw this one in and hope that it kills the
The
bear.
Hail Mary.
Yep. I'll just throw it at the bear. I do have more since I'm wearing overalls. Sharpies galore. I'm stocked.
Hold that open. I want a close up of that.
I am the archaeology nerd. Picked up all the Sharpies. They think I'm stealing them, but they're leaving them on the ground, just laying around to be lost. Finding the one stone tool that said, oh, this is classic Denby. Okay, great. What else is here? Because all this other stuff is very rare for any known sites of these early Paleo-Eskimo sites. It's very rare. But there's a ton of stuff I'm going to be able to do, not just with organic technology, but with learning about their diet and subsistence strategies in general.
Matharak Lake is different because it's buried in a sealed layer. We know everything that we find within that deposit relates to the Denby Flint complex. That makes it very significant. All these unique kinds of information combined at the site make it one of the most significant that we have in the Central Brooks Range and Gates of the Arctic National Park.
It's like falling apart right there. Look at that. Thanks for putting those together. That was a lucky catch.
Yeah.
Forget digging and start fishing from now on. I want to keep this so that I can then have a comparative collection so that when I get the archaeological bones, the fish bones that we're digging up at the site, I can look at those and tell if they're lake trout or if they're different species of fish that maybe they got some grayling out of the river or burbot or salmon. Salmon would actually be really useful to me to know that they were here during the time that the salmon run. Because one of the big things I'm trying to find out is like the time of occupation.
It looks like the site was a campsite. We see, the fact that there are food remains there, tools from a variety of different activities. It looks like people spent a significant amount of time there, and there was probably a group of people.
I can make some estimates about how much food would have been available here from calculating the numbers of individuals per species that I find. I can then create some models where I suggest how many people could have lived here and for how long on the amount of food that's available. Maybe this all occurred in 1 year with a very large group, or it could have been over 50 years with a bunch of small groups coming here. Come to shore if you have to.
Get a knife in.
Oh. It must
No, it
just.
doesn't look pikey.
It looks like this. It's just this. It's a lake trout, and this one's lost some of them too. Though it's only got a few showing. so I can see that this is it. I mean, modern humans have essentially been modern human anatomically for the past 100,000 years. A fish that's in the exact same habitat that it's been in for the last 4,000 years isn't going to change so much that, well, the spine would appear significantly different. We did find 2 other tools that are reminiscent of these kind of bone points, which what their actual function is uncertain. I've had some other folks, Herb Mashner has seen similar tools like this in western Alaska and Aleutians that are of a similar age and older that they've interpreted to be part of fishing gear or part of a Leister prong.
I'm used to those having barbs on them, but yeah, we don't know exactly how these function. They could be foreshafts. We don't think this was the business end of a projectile point. They don't seem to be pointed enough.
We have fish bones, so we know they've been catching fish. So the big question is, what's the fishing technology? By a lake, the way I caught the fish was with a spinner, but did they have some kind of spear? Did they have a net? The preservation here is so great that we could encounter material for making nets. So that's something I'm really keeping my eyes open for as I'm digging.
Once in a while you make a find like Matharak Lake, and in that case we pause to take a closer look at a site. One reason I like to do that is because it gives us a better perspective on other sites that have yet to be identified that are like this.
Oh God, oh, the line broke. It's a trophy.
Yeah, hold it like this. Wait in. Wow.
This is a record.
That's a meal.
It has the feel and appearance of maybe a short-term camp, probably a hunting camp, either in the winter or the summertime. People didn't spend a whole lot of time here, probably treated this as a camp where they could go out and hunt and then bring it back, process it just enough to go back to their camp or their families, or maybe even just a short-term camp while they were in transit from one place to the other. So the site that Andy Tremaine was working on is located up on the northwest corner of the lake. The site that I'm working with is the Matharak Peninsula site down in the southeast corner of the lake on a prominent peninsula. Both sites are unique in part for the same reasons. Andy's site, the Matharak Lake site, had a lot of animal bones, faunal remains that were very well preserved in a large quantity of them. And up until that point, at least in Alaska, there just weren't sites associated with Denby technology that had these large quantities of faunal remains that were so well preserved. We've got a similar thing happening at the Matharak Peninsula site, which is an abundance of well-preserved animal remains and associated with northern archaic technology that has just been more or less absent of faunal remains of organic materials that were preserved along with the stone tools, with just the exception of a few sites throughout Alaska that have yielded single digits of identifiable bone fragments. That makes this a very unique site. Northern archaic sites are very different than some of the sites that we find elsewhere in northern Alaska. These Paleo-Indian sites, these Denali, Nenana sites that you find down in the south. The technology is very different, which probably represents differences in the way not only people were hunting things, but what they were hunting as well, and differences in how people moved around, how and when people staged certain types of camps. This is a microblade core. We found numerous microblades at the Matharak Peninsula site. This is another feature found in these northern archaic sites. Yeah, one thing that always gets me is a lot of people want to talk about the primitive people from 7,000 years ago. To make something like this would have been commonplace for them, but I mean, I couldn't make something like this. This is the base to a side-notched point. Its actual function may have been for a spear or an atlatl dart, or some people have suggested possibly arrows even. And these start popping up about 7,000 years ago throughout Alaska. This is a key diagnostic feature to this northern archaic technology. And we have 2 of these that we found so far at the peninsula site. And so this can help us understand potentially what was happening at this site and try to understand how technology was organized, not just at the site, but perhaps through other sites throughout Alaska, or at least in the Brooks Range.